We're going to be talking about the causes of the American Revolution and specifically focus on the acts that the King of England placed as laws for the colonies. A lot of times these are taxes that they had to pay, and you'll notice that on our page we have cause on one side and effect on the other. The causes here are the British actions, the things they did, and the effects are how the colonies reacted to that. So we have British actions, colonial reactions. Everything that I type here, you will be needing to write on your paper as notes. And just to let you know that typing and talking is sometimes harder than it looks. So there might be a long pause. Just bear with me because I'm either making sure I'm typing the right things or remembering what I have to talk about. So let's jump right in. The first one is the Stamp Act. This was a tax on all, printed materials. Things such as newspapers, wills, and even playing cards. I think that's an interesting thing to add in there. A will is a legal document that you have. You write that before you die, and it says that all of your stuff that you have, depending on who you say in the will it goes to, it legally has to go to those people. So, like, if I unfortunately died, my wife would get all of my stuff, everything that I have, because that's what's in my will. You can do specific people, like Mr. Sledge gets my iPad. Coach Davis gets my stereo. Miss Kelly gets my dictionary. So you can do specific things in a will, or you can just have it all go to your spouse. So the cause, the British action was the Stamp Act, and the colonial reaction was this tax affected everyone. Colonists were being taxed without their consent. That means without their approval, without their permission. Remember, the king was ignoring all self-governments, and the colonists begin to call for action. Action in boycotting goods, until the tax is repealed. Okay? So they would boycott the goods. They wouldn't pay for those things until that tax is repealed. All right, let's move on to our next one. And I'm going to scroll down just a little bit. Okay? Maybe there, so you can still see that one, and then start this one. The next one is the Townshend Acts. Okay, the Townshend Acts was a tax on imported goods. These were basic items that the colonists had to import. They couldn't make them there because of no industry. Okay, and what I mean by that is the Townshend Acts put a tax on all the things the colonists had to import because they couldn't make them in the colonies. Things, surprising things such as glass, paper, tea, and lead. Lead would be used for bullets and things. Okay, so the Townshend Acts created a tax on imported goods, and these are the basic items that they all needed. Okay, the colonial reaction to this, the colonists are furious. The colonists are furious. They begin to boycott. They begin to boycott again. Actually, this was a couple years after the Stamp Act, so they boycott again. There was a group called the Daughters of Liberty, and they led boycotting. They led a boycott attempt to make the colonies economically independent. Okay, so the Daughters of Liberty were looking to create economic independence in the colonies, to where they were wanting industries to increase so we could start making glass and paper and tea and our own lead and things. And by boycotting those things, we were trying to create industry here. Okay, our next one is, let me scroll down just a little bit more for this one. Our next one is the Tea Act. All right, and the Tea Act allowed British tea companies to ship tea to the colonists without paying taxes, which is kind of interesting. It made British tea cheaper than colonial tea, which really made things unfair because there was no competition. Okay? Competition. I don't know how I misspelled that, but I did. So basically what's going on with the Tea Act is the British companies that are making tea, selling tea, importing tea to the colonies did not have to pay taxes on whatever they imported. So they could actually make their tea so much more cheap, so much less expensive, so much cheaper than what the colonies could charge for their own tea. And so let's just say a small box of tea, maybe a cup of tea that the British companies would import in would cost $5. And they wouldn't have to pay taxes on that. So it would cost them $5 to bring it over across the ocean. And the colonial tea, for the same amount of tea, for that same small box, a cup of tea, it would be, maybe $10. And so of course you're going to buy the cheaper tea because you just don't have that kind of money to spend. And so the colonial reaction was the Boston Tea Party. There was a group called the Sons of Liberty, and they were led by a man named Samuel Adams. He was a pretty important guy. What they did was they dumped 342 cases of tea into the Boston Harbor. And by doing this, this made people buy colonial tea. If there's no British tea, then they have to buy colonial tea. And kind of an interesting thing, millions of dollars were dumped into the Boston Harbor. Millions of dollars were lost for England. Okay? Millions of dollars were lost for England. Let me put a space there just to make it happy. All right. Scroll down to our last one. Our last act is the intolerable acts. Okay? The intolerable acts was a response to the Boston Tea Party. So the British king created the Tea Act, which created the Boston Tea Party, which created the intolerable acts. This was in response to the Boston Tea Party. And what the king did, remember that he closed the Boston Harbor. Said nobody can come in, nobody can come out. He also banned, he banned town meetings. And he forced colonists to quarter soldiers, to house his soldiers. A response to that, the colonial response, was the breaking point for the colonists. Breaking point for the colonists. They are not being treated fairly, and they are not being treated as Englishmen. They need independence. Independence now. They have to have independence. They are tired of these things. It is the breaking point. It's the last straw. It's independence now. All right, guys, make sure you have all of this written down. I went fairly slow, so I hope you didn't have to stop this as much. Make sure you have this information, and we will continue our talk tomorrow. But first, we need to fold this hamburger style. Fold it hamburger style, information on the inside, and we can paste this on the right side of our notebook. On the right side of our notebook. Paste it in there, folded hamburger style, information on the inside. All right, guys, I think that's all the directions I need to do. We'll see you around.